Okay, hi everybody. Look at this. This guy. I'm here early because I love you the most. I win. All right, here's today's page. We're gonna get right down on it. Right down on it. Anyways, today's page is the suggestion yesterday was Hollywood symbolism. This is my Hollywood symbolism piece. I was drawing it in dipping ink yesterday, and I'm pretty pleased with the result. It's a pretty basic page, really, but it worked out okay. Let's see. There we are in the photo of Shoppies. But let's switch our overhead on. I thought I had my overhead switched on. Is it or not? I don't know. Let's try this again. Okay, so anyhow, I hope everybody's having a good day. No, you can't climb on me as soon as I start. He was sleeping fine. He's a maniac. Okay, so I'm just going to add in the other camera again. Yeah, okay, good. It's not showing, that's all. All right, there we go. I don't know what's going on. Well, that might be a problem for us. Okay, well, I'm having a great start to my day. Oh, I got it. We figured it out. We figured out the magic elixir. All right, it was labeled wrong. That's on me. Okay, today's music that I'm listening to is... Hi, Chris. Today's music I'm listening to is Pink Floyd, Wish You Were Here. Just great album, and nice and cool and calming as you're working, so that's kind of nice. Okay, so we've gone through today's page, and now we've got it set up for our camera. The objective today is to work on some of this. And what I've got here is some lino. Now I've moved my usual angled desk, and I've got some lino here. I've got some random pieces of paper. I got a lino cutter with a bunch of nibs. I got some stamps. I got some wood carving tools. I got some wood. Got wood. And I thought what we could do is use this. And then I've got some pages for us to try some things out. Now, the only stamp that I've done so far is this green monkey, which is our man card that we've sent to people. And it's really the only thing I've ever really carved. I mean, I carved out the images that the grandkids had drawn on here on lino for me. But this is the only thing that I've done on lino. And so when it comes to, and I've done a face. I tested this out and just did a quick, 10-minute face. And just to test out what that might look like so that we can do a stamped image of a character, and to see if doing a direct face for that would be as successful as maybe just trying for a generic form. And I think I might lean into that. Okay, so we have got, I'm getting the book. We're getting the book. Getting the book out. He's getting the book. Okay, so we've got the book of tricks. Yeah, so I'm catching up on a lot of things here, and yet there's still stuff to do, and yeah, there's just so many things that I've still yet to complete. But more suggestions are always appreciated. Like, we've still got lots of availability for people to input their ideas into, any suggestions. People are fairly reserved, I find, about, I don't know if I want to do that. I don't know if I want to tell them my secrets. But, so one of the things that we could do is to figure out a way to implement a standard approach to character and to stamp those into images and then build the image around them. And so I was thinking a lot about this. And so we've got some fun suggestions at present that might work towards it, but it's just literally a case of just picking one. Okay, well, I think I'll just do this one. It's from Joel. Serve as an example. So I'm going to write this down on Post-it. Well, actually, I'll write it down on screen. So serve as an example. This pen is about cooked. And that's Joel W. So here's our first suggestion. Now I'll put it on in our chat. So if anybody has any ideas about how we can move forward on this idea, I'd be keen to hear them. So here's what I've come up with. Serve as an example is Joel W. That's who suggested this. I spelled it wrong. I apologize to Joel. Okay, so here's what I've come up with. All right, so we've got our serve as an example. I got a tray here to catch all of the Lino bits. But what I thought we could do is draw a couple of characters on here, one male, one female, and then use those stamps through the course of a page, and then have the dialogue between the two of them, be the directional movement of the page. But how do you use stamps without having a whole bunch of stamps on the available, or utilizing stamps that other people have done so they're pre-prepared for you? How do you utilize stamps to tell a narrative? And this is the silhouette motif is the best thing that I can think of. Now, it's not to say that it's the optimal decision. And if anybody has any ideas otherwise, now would be a good time to say. But I just think it's a nice way to approach it that tells us something about our character. Now, I can stamp. Here's the other thing that I can do. I can stamp an image one way, and then go into the scan it and then put it in a digital and flip that so that we can have some sort of conversational aspect to it. Or I can go in and I can pull in on it. So those two options present us with some interesting approaches that we can take. Now, I don't know. Okay, that turns out pretty well. So I've got this piece of linoleum here. And so what I thought I would initially do is just draw a character that silhouettes well. And despite silhouetting well, I'm going to put some lines in so that I can carve the details if I decide to. If I decide to simplify it with the silhouette, then that's one thing. But if I get so swept up that I still want to implement a little more detail into the characters and the time permits it, then I'm going to do so. So I'm putting his hands on his hips, and but I'm trying to draw him at a certain scale. And with this said scale, when I draw the female figure, same scale, then we should be able to, without having too much manipulation, to be able to have the two of them conversing with each other. And we can change their directions and change their perspectives. And so, yeah, that's the idea. I don't know if anybody's ever done this before. I don't think I've come across an instance where somebody's utilizing a stamp for storytelling. But I'm rather new to a lot of the online community and mixed media community, and finding out different neat things every day, which I absolutely adore. Because there's so much cool stuff to learn. Chris says, stamp a crowd of people. I've been reading and watching videos about witches and how they were punished. They fit to serve as an example for me. Not that I agree with what they suffer. Yeah, I think stamping a crown at people is an available thing to do, because if I overlap, of course, this stamp. Now, were I to continue doing something like this, I could commit more into drawing more individuals over time and creating stamps of more individuals over time. And then that way it would facilitate to have different figures in different scenes. And I think that you got to start somewhere. I think that some place to objectively go. But to start with, let's just get a couple people done, and then we can repeat them over and over again to serve as a crowd. Because, that's where we're going to start with. So I think it's just the easiest way to go about it, and the fastest way to go about it, really. I like that a lot. And I like the idea of people gathered in front of a person suspected to be a witch. Well, how do you know she's a witch? Because she turned me into a duck. Oh, no, it's she turned me into a newt. A newt? And then people look at him like this, and he goes, I go better. Such a great John Cleese moment in one of the Monty Python films that's from Holy Grail. I, Arthur, King of the Britons, King of the Who. Yeah. The Britons. Who's that then? We are. You, me, together, all of us. Well, I didn't elect you. Nobody elects a king. There's some of the greatest dialogues in that film that are so natural. Like, they're so honest. This is how people would react, confronted by these grander ideas, like these people that are sludging mud out of the dirt for who knows what reason. I think they're pulling peat up from a bog in order to use it for farming. I think that's what's happening. Otherwise, it just looks like they're rooting around in the mud. And, just to be presented with the idea that they are now under rulership. They're under rule of a noble. And they see themselves as an autonomous collective of individuals that vote that each week one of them takes the position of authority and prepares whatever proclamations during their week. Of course, the next week, somebody else votes them out because, they're not there for the voting part. They're just putting forward the proclamation for people to mull over. But nothing's ever resolved during their term. I mean, that's the closest you can get to taking an attack at both democracy, or into the monarchy, one or the other. Both of them get a good shot there. So I don't know anybody that's in the chat or in the stream today. Jim texted first today because apparently Jim loves me the most. That's what he said. I've got it in print. It's never going away. Okay, so now the reality for anybody that hasn't done lino cutting and printing, the reality of this is that it's not the lines. You're not carving the lines that you draw. You're carving the voids around them. And so the more complex you make the drawing, the more challenging it is to carve it out. And there's a battery of tools that can be used in order to do so. And I'll show you those in just a sec. So here's our male figure that we're going to start with today. And then I'm also going to do a female figure. It's got let's get both sides represented here. All right. The tricky part of all that is that you don't want to do like, I mean, there's so many ways that you could approach this, like, but you want to capture the femininity of the character, the female figure, as opposed to the masculine. But at the same time, I'm not interested in doing the whole pin-up supermodel type, because to me that's just boring. So I think that what I'll do is take an easier approach to it and mirror poses here. I'll give her a similar pose to the masculine stance, and we'll just emphasize the different, not overemphasize, but you know what I mean, just the difference of the physical. So today I got to go get my hair cut. We just got back. We literally just got back from the school that I actually went to elementary school at, where my grandkids are now, because my oldest and her husband have moved nearby. So we just got to go and see the two younger boys, Maverick and Robert, go and perform in their kindergarten Christmas songs, and that is a riot. If you don't have kids and you want just pure comedy, try to get yourself engaged in going and watching children sing holiday music. Like, it was non-denominational, because not everybody in elementary school is, of course, of one belief system. So they just do a generic singing about snowballs and snowmans, and there's always this sort of stereotype of kids that are in these events, like the little kid that shouts every word of every song, and their whole body is invested in that. And then there's the daydreamers listening about, and there was one little girl that was doing a dance, and she wasn't even facing the stage. Like, she wasn't even facing the parents and grandparents or whoever out in the audience for half the time. She was literally she could care less. She's up having a dance. The kids are singing, she's dancing. And then there's the kid who sings, and every time there's a pause in the singing, they dance like their entire life depends on it. All of those sort of things are just the best part of going to these events and witnessing the kids having just a ball. And I miss that, when your kids get to be a certain age and you don't get to experience that anymore. I got a lot of friends that don't have kids, and I mean, it's something to miss. It's something to miss, all that stuff. So we'll put her hands here as well, and so and we'll put her in a similar outfit. Different kind of shoe. And we'll give him boring old sneakers. There we go. Because I have to carve that out, so I gotta be wise, not overcomplicate it for myself. I'm missing stuff. I'm so sorry. Chris said, okay, stamp a crowd of people. Yep, that's definitely an approach I'm going to take today. I carved a dancer as drawn by my granddaughter so she can use it for the background action in her drawings. That's awesome, Linda. That is absolutely awesome. I love that. That's great. That's the kind of thing I respect the heck out of. We took the two oldest grandkids with us to finish off the Christmas shopping, because the last Christmas shopping that Lori and I had to do was for Lori and I. And so when we took them with us, the way that I took Jay and Lori had Liliana, and the way that these kids talk as they're shopping is so fantastic, because their assessment of us is nothing like we thought it might be. Like, their association of, grandpa like this because of blah, 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 blah reasoning, or grandma, you think that she would like this weird golden African horn with images carved in it, but it has two little drawers underneath so she can organize her office. I'm like, how can you organize anything with that? These drawers are like an inch thick and like 4 inches long. It's like, this is all decorative, buddy. It's like, no, I'm pretty sure she could use it. I'm like, I don't know how. But it's just something that looks cool to him, you know. And meanwhile, Lily's like, Grandpa needs this. But because he never lets me use those. He says, don't use those of mine. You know, and maybe I can use these ones. Maybe he'll let me use these ones because the other kind is too expensive for me to be allowed to touch. And I'm like, she had all this to say about it? And she's like, yeah. I got a little carried away there with the eyes and the face, thinking about all these elaborate features that I could carve out of it. And the truth is, I'm not that good at carving. So we'll do some lines here, and then how complex or not they get, we'll find out in the process. So I've got some different things. I got some stamp pads. I've got some printer's ink that I can roll out, and we'll see what we go with here. But there we are. That might be a little big on this one, I think. Still, good heavens, what's going on with me today? It's because I left the shape of the face before I drew the face, and that's where you get caught. See, it doesn't make more sense now. And we cut down the size of that. Give that girl a lot of forehead. Okay, so we've got, it's awesome. I was just thinking about what Linda had said again. So I've got this lino cutter from Speedball. Now I have another one of these that has a drawing nib in it. And I utilize that for holding in my hand and doing dipping ink drawings. Whereas this, I hold it in my hand to do, you know, etching. And I have a whole bunch of different nibs in here that allow me to do different things for carving out the surface. And so I'm just going to set those aside for the moment. And I'll start with, see, what I want to do is I want to start right away with the tight details like this guy. But I realized, no, let's just start with the volume. So I don't know if anybody else has tried Lino or not, but I think it's pretty straightforward. Whatever you take out, we don't see. Whatever you leave down, we do. So like I said a few minutes ago, you're actually cutting out the void, right? 20 minutes in, we're all working. Chris says, I've carved on white erasers, but inks here are not cute except for a violet color. So I don't use my stamps much. Well, that's, you know, completely understandable. There's different types of ink that you can use, but I think that ink can be, like so many other art supplies, can be cost prohibitive and too expensive. And you know, I completely understand when people don't. I don't want to get involved in another medium. I don't want to get involved in another process. That makes complete sense to me. So I'm not carving I'm not like cutting all the way into it, just cutting down a little bit into the linoleum and pulling away the area. So I'll try to hold this up and see if it does anything to focus this example a little bit better. And so I'm carving out, to start with, the space around the figures, following these defining lines that I've already put down. Now, here's the idea. So I've got to do a narrative piece between two characters engaging and interacting. And the suggestion for today is serve as an example. So, I mean, we can talk about how they might serve as an example in the world, and they can have a conversation towards that. To say that I'm only going to do this piece using lino cutting, I haven't resolved myself for that yet. I've turned this thing on its side so I can get broader draws on this and smooth out the surface that I've already pulled up, because you get these little ridges everywhere. I don't want them. I don't want the ridges. I have yet to try to carve on an eraser, and I have yet to, well, honestly, I have yet to try too many different things or too many different ways on this process, and it's largely because there's a part of me that's like, just, you can draw it faster. Why are you going through all that extra steps when you're not going to use that on lots of different things? And then my eyes have been opened, and my eyes have been opened by watching sites like PM Artist Studios, or Yolanda and Devin Rex for art, or well, those are the two big primaries where they'll utilize stamps. Yes, sir. Corbin wants to say hi, everybody. Here you go. Hey, what's going on, suckers? Hey, someone make me a ham sandwich. You want to see my belly? There's my belly. There's my belly. There's my belly. You happy? That's it. He's done. Okay. So, I don't know what I was saying. Oh, yeah. So I've tried to figure out how can I go about utilizing stamps in a narrative with that I can use them as repetition. And that's where I came up with the generic male and female figure. But using patterns and using background stamps and things like that I've been seeing Yolanda do in a really progressive way, and as well as Mariah and Patricia on PM Artist Studios, it's really opened my eyes. Patricia, Mariah, and Yolanda are inspiring, that Chris says. Oh, I completely agree. They're really good at creating these images as they do. And see, this is the thing. You can have some measure of proficiency in one thing or another, and you can work primarily in one approach to creative expression, but it doesn't mean that you can't utilize tools from boxes outside of your own. That doesn't mean you can't utilize, stamps or for in the case for me, I guess it would be stamps or jelly plating and things like that, and taking these processes and incorporating them into how I go about making a page. I think for me, I found it quite liberating. I mean, but by that action, I think that anybody that works in those medium would be fully able to also give a shot at storytelling using your toolbox. So Linda says it's a good idea, Christopher, to use them in storytelling. Thank you, Linda. And she also agrees that yes, they are. They are really inspiring people. I don't know if you can see this bozo in camera, but he is literally climbing on top of me because he thinks it's helping to be completely in the middle of what I'm doing. Where'd you go? Now I just crawled to the floor the hard way. Okay, so I'm paying attention. I mean, there's a great deal of things I learned. I've learned watching Dee Dee as well. I mean, Dee Dee Willingham introduced me to Poscas. And because up until then, I really was only using jelly roll pens. And there were certain things that I could not implement white, the sort of addition subtraction method that I'll approach on drawing an image. But the white would not work in certain regards because, of course, it's just an ink. And meanwhile, the Posca is a heavy acrylic. So that was liberating. So beautiful, right, Linda? What is that? Do you mean like the way that they approach their creativity? I think so too. But I'm always going to encourage folks to give a hand at narrative, to give a shot at narrative, try their hand at narrative, give a hand. Narrative means and try to tell stories with their work, and art is intended to have some sort of quantifiable meaning, except for when it isn't, right? Then there's a lot of art that is made towards function, and there's nothing wrong with that at all. Chris says, I'm sorry for typos. I'm using my phone. Oh, you're doing great. Indeed, indubitably, inconceivable. I think that it's fun also to try on new things. So here's a random thing that happened. I'm sitting here with my grandson the other day, and he's just a video is playing as we stepped into my studio. There was a video, like a whole series of them had been playing. Well, we had been doing some stuff for the previous 45 minutes. And so this random thing that I wouldn't have looked up came up, where a guy is talking about different tools and processes that you can utilize in Photoshop. And I've always had this whole, how do I make the screen turn around and so that I can make lines go wherever I want by manipulating the turnaround of the screen. And, I've been using these preset functions like 90 degrees, 180 degrees, and there's a button, you just hold the R button down and it spins the image. And I only learned that because my grandson pointed it out. Grandpa, did you see that? You can make it spin around all you like. And I'm like, what? And it wouldn't have happened if I hadn't just sort of watched the tutorial. The tutorial was actually about something completely different. But in the course of doing this other action, he's spinning the image. I'm like, oh, well, now I know. And knowing is half the battle. Chris, as we mentioned, carved December on Instagram and some comments above. What is Carved December? Is this a thing? Is that a real thing? I'm trying to take hacks out of it, being real cheeky here. But we've got a lot of the void in between the two figures already pulled out. I'm feeling good with that start. Yeah, I'm not sure what, I'll have to look up Carved December. There's a million different online group ideas and objective, actions, like where people are working together on one thing or another. And I think it's a lot of fun. I was completely unaware of that, really, until I started, giving myself more time to look into a bunch of craft videos and vloggers. Is that, I don't know what to call doing videos on YouTube. I call it I have videos on YouTube. Not too excited. Chris is on Instagram. People carve stamps and use them for many things. Oh, I'm going to have to look into this. Carved December. That's great. Thank you. It's a lot of fun. So all I've got really other than this is these little previously executed stamps for the man card and I've done a one-page story with that, already, but I don't know how I would incorporate a monkey scratching his butt into this image, but maybe we will. Or maybe I'll just use that and carve, and stamp a whole bunch of monkeys scratching his butt on a surface, and then use that as a foundation to work on, like I do often with jelly plating and things like that. So I try to use all of the materials. I try to not let any of them sit, and gather dust. I'm always trying to try new things, and I'm always trying to take a crack at new approaches. So I got Lino. Let's do something with linoleum here. We'll do the bathroom floor. Somebody had a fantastic idea, this wonderful idea about painting a mosaic of tiles on the floor of their bathroom. And, the question becomes, do you try to retile that with all kinds of tiny tiles, or do you just paint it? And if you're going to do that, how do you seal it? And so that you can continue to use your washroom, If anybody has any questions or one-page story suggestions, you're always welcome to feel free to put those in the comments, and we'll put things in the book. Thank you, Chris, for the bear suggestions on 3 Prompt Tuesday. This is me. Tickle Me Thursday. That was a lot of fun. Sort of immediately just takes your imagination places. Yo, and I love alliteration, y'all. So I'm following the outside contour of the figure to start off with. It's almost like it's dividing these images up into sections in the areas. It's kind of fun to approach it with this mindset, because it doesn't feel like such a drastic thing doing it this way. Like, it just feels manageable. And if I can immediately keep myself away while clearing all this area around, stay away from the core part of the image, or in this case, the body, so that that channel that I'm carving that follows around the promontory of the figure itself ideally keeps me from making some serious mistakes. So that's the theory. That's my theory. Chris says, I like showing homophones to basic students of English so they can have fun and not be overwhelmed by the pronunciation and spelling of the language. That's awesome. That's great. It's funny words, like I say pronunciation, and people are, and many people I know also say pronunciation. And which one's right? I don't know. But the English people in my family say pronunciation. Now, not everybody is English. I think it's very American to say pronunciation. Or pronunciation. Okay. Now, there's also, I'm doing a lot of different things with one Lino tool. There are, amongst these other tools that I showed you, there are others like this broad scoop of a carving knife. And as opposed to, you can see the narrow of this one's so much more broad. And this is really for clearing a section and leveling it off and smoothing it. That's really what this one's task is to do specifically that. So I just, trying to do as much as I can without having to switch. But I could just as readily clear these large volumes with that larger tool. And of course, smaller tools are for coming in and doing finer details. And this makes a lot of mess. This is why I have the tray here, just to catch a lot of this linoleum, so it's not all over the place, because I am fussy. Chris says, my accent is a big mixture. I'm not sure if I'm clear enough when I stream. I think you are. There's a funny thing about having different languages under your belt, or different like ethnicities influencing your dialect, because it makes you have wonderful phrasing structures that other people don't. And and of course, it always seems exotic from the outside in, right? Like I've talked about this before. I have a friend who says Barcelona, and they pronounce TH. And as opposed to on the news, you hear Barcelona, but they say Barcelona. I come from Barcelona. And I love that. I think that's really nice. Is it the authentic dialect of everybody else that lives there? I don't know, but I like how they say it. Also because they are from Barcelona. So now, whenever I hear someone say Barcelona, I'm like, all that goes through my head is Barcelona. Accents are funny things. And in Britain, as long as people know you're Canadian and not American, and they can tell the difference, you're good. But people like the Canadian accent, but they think that the American, many American accents are ridiculous. But I think it's partially to do with the voice and partially to do with sentiment. But and then we generalize sounds for how people speak from different places. I always think that's interesting. Chris, I think you have a nice accent. There are people that I also know that I know so many people that don't know what they're saying, and they have a really hard time understanding them. And for I don't know, whatever reason, I tend to be able to pick up on different little accents and different little uses of language and things. I'm always trying, whenever people get worried about typos, don't worry about typos here. I always try to read it, unless it's something that I don't understand what they're saying, and I'll say to people, can you tell me that again? And it's just because the typo is so off the day. What's the song of the day, Chris? Well, we just saw the two of the grandkids doing their Christmas assembly or holiday assembly, and they sang as mittens and gloves, gloves and mittens, keep you all cuddly like a little kitten, meow. And that is rooted right inside my brain rent free. Now, ideally, I would cite one of the REM or Pink Floyd songs I've been listening to today. Yep, both those bands in the same day. I'm a weird one. So that's the one, though, that is truly stuck in my head, is the one that was sung by these little kids. Some Spanish from Spain is different from all the accents in Latin America. You should listen to Miriam and me speaking in Spanish. I have. She goes back to her Argentinian accent, and mine is Mexican. Isn't that something? Our vocabulary is different too, but we understand well what we say. Oh, that's great. That's great. There's, people wouldn't think that, eh? People would think that it's, that it all isn't Spanish. It's all Mexican or Bolivian or Argentinian or, Barcelonan. They would just think it was all one thing. Because people are generally dumb. Okay, so I'm on that broad knife setting to just clean up this base area. What is the music that other people are listening to today? I'm really curious to find that out. I always like to find new bands. Okay, where are we at? I wonder what Jim's listening to. I think it might be a different kind of a mode. See how much cleaner that is, that using the broad tool in those areas. Small mountain of lino being carved off this thing. I'm only going to go so far. And then I'm going to clip this off of the larger piece. But I will leave this one space over here to be used for something else. Other figures, or somebody going, oh, gasp. Jim says, I'm listening to the Chris Runciman experiment. Very avant-garde. Laura and I watched a great documentary last night, The Bookstore. It's about an old bookstore in Maine and how it was trying to survive through the absurdity of the virus. And it's funny, all these musicians and different people that he's talking about going through, but it keeps cutting the clips of the principal fellow at the bookstore reading different works. And everything sounds like, somebody from New York area reading poetry. It has, it's very lovely how he does it, but it still sounds like a New Yorker reading poetry. And I thought that was funny. Dialects are great. Whee! Okay, so I've cut this enough away that I can cut off the other bit. I'm going to leave it on until I'm done doing the spaces between. But we've already got it started as we're almost there for complete silhouettes of the figures. But I think what I might do is roll the silhouette out in a moment, and we'll use a light value like a yellow or something like that. So ideally, I can still see my lines through. But we can put these guys down as our first figures in a crowd. But this is a lot of fun. It's very cathartic. It's Chris says, I could distinguish most of the time people coming from Colombia, Venezuela, Argentina, Central America, mostly by the accent and certain use of words. It's fun to guess from where they come from and if they will establish in Mexico for long. I like talking to them about their stories. Even Mexico has different accents and speeds. People in the South speak differently from Central and North America. That's the same here in Ontario. Just this part alone of Canada, there's a stereotype in the United States that all Canadians say, "About." Hey, what's this all about, huh? What's going on there, pal? But there's some truth to it. There's that sort of dialection in certain parts of the country, but not everywhere. It's more of a Vancouver accent because the majority of Canadian television that the American audience sees, a lot of it's filmed in Vancouver. There's a clear difference in the Vancouver accent from the Torontonian. It has a lot to do with the different ethnicities that settled areas. There's a thing up north where up in the Ottawa Hull region, you'll have a lot of people who'll have that stereotypical French accent there, the Canadian one, where that guy over there, who the hell does he think he is? Like there's that accent. And then there's your stereotypical, native Canadian accent, which is in the north is far more thick. And so it starts to sound like this. And everybody speaks in this sort of a dialect and speed, What's really funny is when you get, and I know two guys, one is native, and he sounds like the Quebecois. He sounds like that guy over there, who the hell does he think he is? And then his friend, who's Caucasian, he sounds like this when he talks all the time. It's like the two of them, it's like they swap voices for the stereotype, right? But pretty quickly, people in Canada, much like people in the States, their accents all level each other out. You get, significant communities, like there's a significant amount of Irish in the New England states. And so you'll get a lot of dialects where they say things like chowda, Chris says, at the university, 60% of our students come from different regions in Mexico, and I have had students from Panama, Colombia, and Venezuela. That's pretty awesome. Canada is so multi-ethnic at this point. And our existing government, which ideally is voted out next term, and not due to the reason I'm about to, not this, what I'm about to tell you isn't the reason why, but they have this crazy push to have, like 100,000 or like 100 million Canadians by 2050 or something like that. And we're 38. We have 38 million people here. That's an awful big influx of people. We have to have an infrastructure to support that. And the current government has no ability to do that. So, but, it's nice that we're as open-hearted as we are. Give everybody an opportunity to live here. Okay, so now I've got the large areas pulled out on the image, and I'm going to now pull away the details, but I better, just before I forget, finish some of some of the details in the body and the form here. Okay. Boom, 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 boom. All right. Chris says, I find certain accents in the U.S. problematic to understand the first time I listen to them speaking during their streams. I think we're close to be about 125 million Mexicans here. Wow. Canada, being the second largest country in the world, has the population of California. In fact, less than. It's just it's too cold here for a lot of folks, and very different cultural aesthetic in between the two spaces. Not too different. There's homogenization with globalization, but there's still some differences. It's a small corridor of space in Mexico to have that many people living in that country because of the mountainous regions and the heat temperature in places. So I'm doing these nice crisp fine lines along this edge so I can get into, you know, like that little beveling around the ankle of the foot. The majority of Mexicans live in 6 major cities. Mexico City having the biggest population of more than 20 million. Yeah, boy, that's something. So, having lived in the city that I'm in here in Canada for, well, the majority of 5 decades, at least, and plus, I think that I'm a little dumbfounded by how big the city I'm in is getting, because when I was young, it was 125,000. And now it is 425,000. It's a lot of growth. When I was a kid, it was also the whitest place ever. Like, pretty much everybody that had settled in London were Caucasian. Everything you just said would sound ominous if you said it like Werner Herzog. You can say anything by Werner Herzog and make it sound ominous, Jim. I would like for you to make me a beautiful kind of soup. I tend to only eat soup during the course of the day, because if people know what's good for them, they would do the same. Okay, so I think I'm pretty good with having picked out the outline. Just getting into some of these little detail places around these fingers. Okay. I'll pull some lines out of this space. And then we'll cut into here to find this foot. I'll hold it up 2 seconds. Boot shakes of a lamb's tail. Sorry, chat. I'll be with you in just a sec. have some little glitches in places. It's inevitable. Okay. So yeah, I think yeah, I think that's clean around there. And I got to go around their faces and their hair, I think, and we're good. Okay, so here's where we are, and on these two figures as we define them. So I'm going to first go over them in a light, like a yellow. I'll use yellow, and I'll do a silhouette. Let's see, I'll try printing a silhouette first and foremost, and seeing if that is a good place to start. I would also like to, reason for drawing the interior of the body is to put those details in, of course, but let's just start and get that silhouette down and start plotting how to move forward. And I think that by doing the yellow as the color to print, I won't lose all of my initial drawing here off of the character. Okay. And I'm just going to put a couple little notches and bits of information in this lady's hair. Okay, so, oh yeah, Laura's taking my scissors. Christmas wrapping. But have we got a blade? Exactlo. There it is. Okay. Where I'm living in, we are like 4 million people now, but after living in Mexico City, I feel like it's not really populated. Last week I celebrated 5 years being here, and I don't regret it a bit. Oh yeah. There's a part of me that wants to leave London. I'm tired of this city. But we like our house. If I could literally figure out a way to pick my house up and just drop it wherever I wanted to, I would do so without that, all the cost and expense. So if anybody has any magic wands they're not using, this is the threading along the back of the lino that I have cut. Okay, so here is our first stamp that we've got so far. Where's your thing before I drop you into my hand? All right, so I'm going to get the brayer out, and I'll get some printing ink out, and then we'll give this the old what for? The old college try, or shall we? Okay. All right, I got a blue, I got a gold, I got a red, I got a yellow. Let's go yellow. Carving is fun when you start testing it with ink, then it gets really messy. Oh, good, sure. Now I've got a plastic plate here. Just a piece of, fiberglass, I guess it is. It's a lot of ink. Okay, well, so we'll just roll this out, spread it out a little bit. Just getting it spread on the roller more than I'm worried about what's on there. And I'll roll that. See, I can still see my drawing doing it this way. All right, and I've got this jelly-plated paper, so we'll just try this. on here. Let's see how this goes. I got to get one of those smudger things that people have. Those are, maybe I'll just make one. Okay. Well, I don't know if I didn't have enough ink on there, or I did it on the most modeled surface with yellow in it that you could possibly use. But let's try it on the white. All right, so we got something. We got something to start with. That's fun. Yahoo! Okay. So I can do a few of these, or I can, I'm going to utilize this, but I think I'll try one more, and then I'm going to get into carving the rest of the details, because if I keep going over this thing, I will have completely lost them. All right, so we'll do this, and we're going to try to get this to look beautiful. Did you ever hinder when you had to run? Okay, so let's see what this does for us. They're really faint. I'll hold it up. But there we go. There's our first two silhouettes. Chris says, nice. Thank you, Chris. And then says, I'm going to get some acrylics tomorrow to test my jelly plate. Heavy acrylics if you can, Chris. Heavy. I find that there really is a difference. Heavy dole. Okay, so we got something started here. We got something that's starting to happen. So I yellowed my knuckle. So I'm going to wipe some of this off the surface. Goodbye. Okay, so we got our couple back there, and I'm going to try to take out some of these details. Chris says, I'll try to get some acrylics. Okay, thanks. Yeah, I'm sure that you'll get other people will have other things to say, but I don't know. I keep reading, use heavy acrylics, and you get better results. And I think there's something to that, because I find that those do work better for me. So I am now carving out inside the form here. See these arrows? And so some of these details that I sketched in quickly in my pencil, well, let's try to keep them. And so I'm going to uniformly use this as my governing line and contour all around, defining these nice little applied thin consistent lines this way. Now I'm sure that there's a bazillion tools and approaches that people utilize that I will, if I did more of this, utilize over time and learn eventually, but I tend to learn by doing. You find surprising and interesting applications of things that way. And then when we roll the brayer over this, we'll have all these lines that ideally will pick up the ink. And then we'll start putting down some fun things. Okay, Chris is saying bye for now. See you later, Chris. Thanks for coming and hanging out. So tomorrow I'll have this page posted. And on Fun Time Friday, I will work in whatever medium people suggest for me during the stream. You know, try out whatever. A little bit of a Christmas thing. Now, maybe I've made this overly complicated. I don't know. But I'm sure there's a far more elegant way to do this. But we're pulling it out. We're pulling out some lines. You know. I don't know how exciting this is, but I got to figure out in the new year some. I'm going to look for a moderator to help out because I don't want to leave people in the lurch. And I want to be able to link to people's things. And I am aware right away that I don't have the facility to do all those things at once. So here we go. We're starting to get all these lines and details in the shoulder now. So I get this arm finished. We'll see where we're at with that. Now, the other thing I can do is separate these two figures from one another so that I can, print one in repetition of him or print one in repetition of her, side by side by side. And different approaches, right? Different utilizations of the two stamps on the same surface. But I think that's coming. Yeah, I'm all right with that. Okay, well, what are we at? We're at 115. Get a little bit more done on this. Or, I'll tell you what, I'll walk through. Let's walk through the composition of the page. How's that? So this isn't all we're doing right now. All right, we got that arm done. Okay. So then it's just doing the rest of them. Okay, so here's the idea. We've got these two characters that we've done so far, the lady and the man. And so one of the things that we can do, because the man is facing this way and the lady is facing ostensibly that way by the silhouette, we can have the two of them have a conversational. So that we can have, him standing here talking to her standing here. And, have the two characters engaging and interacting. Then another thing that I should be able to do is pull in on an upper body shot of these two so that, we can have this image where he's still talking and she's still talking. But we can also do that repetitively, but using different colors. Like I can print different colors with the characters, and so have those transitional images. While there might be repetition, at the same time it's going to be repetition with different values to it, with different tonal values to it, and hopefully we can connect to the emotional content of the association of those tonal values. So we'll see. I mean, it allows me to try some different things with the two characters, the two figures, and then, you know, we can also play with the idea of overlapping repetition of these guys as a group. You can draw different elements on people, like, you know, here's a big hook that's coming out to pull him off stage, right? Like whatever it is. But I'm going to play with that idea tonight from the initial stamping. So I'm kind of excited. This is kind of a fun way to approach things. You know, you got to try anything, right? Anything counts. Anything has value as a tool, as a mechanism for you to tell stories. So it really is just a case of, like I usually say, throwing whatever it is at the wall and seeing what sticks. So yeah, this has been a lot of fun. I think I'll keep on with this and get something put together to be able to present to you tomorrow. Tomorrow I will be working on another one-page story. I'll be working traditionally, I think. I'll either be penciling traditionally or penciling digitally. And then we're going to have all kinds of fun because I got different things I want to show you. Or I might implement mixed media images that I've been trying to collect from stamp swaps, from things that have been sent to me in the mail and stuff like that. So we'll see how that goes. Okay. In the meantime, I think I'm going to sign out for now and finish this off as I can. I got to go and get a few final things done with the with and for the family. So thanks very much, everybody, for coming and hanging out. I hope you've had a good day. If you've got a one-page story suggestion you want to make, please feel free to put it in the comments of any of these videos or social media posts. If you've got prompt words you want to lay on me, the same goes for those as well. And if you want to engage in any of the things that I've worked from for prompts or for story suggestions, please do so. I'd love to see them. I'm always looking forward to seeing what other people are doing and different interpretations of the same idea. So with that in mind, have some fun creating. If I don't see you, have a fantastic holiday. If you're able to get any time off or not, find a moment for yourself, okay? And engage in that moment of holiday for yourself. It's a tough time of the year. There's lots of people out there. Feel free to chat anybody up. In the meantime, Lino says thanks, and Chris says thanks. Thanks very much, everybody, for hanging out. I will be back tomorrow at 2 p.m. EST for a fun-filled stream. Bye for now.